Well, it's another day at the RV Small Talk Podcast. Really excited today because we have Jimmy Rip with us. And if you don't know who he is, man, you need to hang in there and
Google me.
Figure it out. Or Google him, all right? You can do that.
Come on.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about famous people. We might talk a little bit about rock and roll. And we might slip in a little bit about camping and truck campers.
Oh, no, we got to talk a lot about truck campers and camping.
Okay, well, you heard it. That's what Jimmy says. So, all right. Welcome to the RV Small Talk Podcast, where we talk about truck campers, lightweight trailers, and the people, places, and adventures that go right along with them. We are your hosts.
You said that before.
I have, about 300 times. Someone here has said that. And I think I wrote it, actually.
You did write it.
Yeah, because I said, how are we going to start this? How about this? And here we are. 300 times later.
Wow.
So we are your hosts from Princess Craft RV, the wilds of Princess Craft, as they say. And I'm PJ.
I'm Lindsay, and we have Jimmy Rip as our guest today. So thank you for...
I didn't really expect to be doing this, but I'm very happy to be here.
That's what most of the people that sit in that chair say.
That's pretty much what everybody says.
I don't know what's happening right now.
Really? What's happening?
I've done a couple of million radio and television interviews, but I've never gotten to talk about truck camping before.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited to do that.
Well, good. Well, we're glad to talk about truck camping too. But we also want to know some of your other adventures because we meet lots of colorful characters here at Princess Craft. We seem to attract them and we're very proud of it. And we're fortunate enough to have you join us.
Well, I'm a colorful character dressed in black. So
oh, well, that's just music.
Maybe I'm a colorless character. I'm not sure.
Hey, you're from the land of the outlaws, so...
I was getting some crazy stares hitting the bars in Round Rock last night.
Did you
go down to the Main Street?
I did.
Isn't it cute down there?
I was at the Long Branch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had a couple of drinks. Didn't get arrested.
Cool. Oh. Congratulations.
So it was a good night.
It was a good night. It was very quiet. It was very quiet down there. I was surprised.
Yeah, it's kind of nice down there. Yeah, and in Austin, to only go as far as the Long Branch, that's pretty impressive, Jimmy.
I've been driving, I just bought this truck up in Portland, Oregon, and I drove from there to here in 4 days, which is...
That's a haul.
500 miles or so a day. And it was a fantastic drive. It was a good way to shake down this truck because it's 20 years old.
Wow.
It's a 2005 Dodge Ram.
It looks brand new.
It looks brand new. And I'd like to thank the good people at Jordan Motorsports in Portland, Oregon for hooking me up with it because the gentleman, it was a one-owner truck. And this is nice. We can talk about this because it's a podcast about trucks and campers. And
you know what?
Otherwise, if I did this on a normal kind of thing I do, they'd be, their eyes would be glazing.
Shut up, Jimmy.
Tell us more about Mick Jagger. And I'm like, oh, no, I want to talk about my truck.
Yeah. Well, we talk about everything here.
It's
So
all right. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the one guy owned it for almost his whole life, and the guy who bought it just before me dropped about $30,000 into it, and then his life changed, so he had to get rid of his toy, and I was the beneficiary of that. It's basically a new truck. I mean, it's all new suspension. Everything you could do to the motor is done. The transmission's rebuilt. It's a manual, which is my favorite, and so it's ready to put my Cirrus 820, but I wanted to make sure it was working great, and to drive 2,400 miles to get here.
That is a very good test.
I now know that thing runs like a top.
I'm really curious to see the Cirrus on a 20-year-old truck. Just because the Cirrus is so modern and sleek looking.
It's not like it's an old square body, F-350 or something.
I saw it. I think it's still going to look really cool.
The Cirrus has got such a beautiful aerodynamic shape to it. It's not all squared off like some of the other ones whose
Yeah.
names we won't mention. But,
All the other ones.
it's got a beautiful shape to it, and that Ram truck is kind of curvy and sexy, if we can say that, and it's got some chrome on it, not like the new ones all trying to look blacked out. And I like, I'm an old school guy, so if I could have gotten a 30-year-old one and had it function the same, I would have, because I love that old style. But this is as far back as I wanted to go.
Is this your first truck camper?
Oh, yeah.
So
Is this your first camping
Yeah,
experience?
well, I mean, other than
Putting
a tent out in a state park or something, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So where do we start?
Newbie.
Why a
Yeah.
truck camper?
Well, the long, well, I'll do the medium version. I just returned to the United States after living in Argentina for 16 years.
Ooh.
And, I've been a musician and a record producer my whole life. And there's really no corner of the planet that I haven't been to a couple of times. And Argentina has an amazing rock and roll scene, and it's a great place. Because of the United States' sometimes faulty educational system, people tend to not even be able to put their finger on Argentina on a world map. But for those who know, and for those who like to know, it's not Brazil, which all of my friends are like, well, you must love that hot weather. I'm like, it's the same weather as New York, but without the snow. It's four seasons. It's steaming hot in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. It's all of that stuff. And it's not Brazilian, it's not a samba place. It's a rock and roll country, really. And people think of the tango, but really that's just for tourists. The heart of the country is soccer, football, and rock and roll. And because I played for many years with Mick Jagger and a lot of other people who are idolized down there, I got treated very nice. Trying to make this long story shorter.
I like it.
It's okay.
So after 16 years, I kind of felt that I'd done everything that you could do 3 times. And, I produced platinum records and blah, 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 blah. And so I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to do it speaking English because
That's fair.
Because my brain was almost broken with 16 years of, I didn't speak any Spanish when I got there. And it's not a place where you can get by speaking English, so I really...
So now you speak Spanish, right?
badly, but a little better than that, I won't say what I was just saying.
Well, you could say it in Spanish.
I always say I spoke well enough to eat good and meet beautiful women.
Do other things good.
Yes.
Got it.
I cleaned that one up a bit, but yeah, that was my I did reach a certain competency in Spanish, but I really wanted to do something else, and I played guitar for 42 years with a very well-known musician, guitar player named Tom Verlaine, and who was famous for having a band called Television. And so he was one of my dearest friends, and we played together for 42 years. And Tom died a couple of 2 years ago. And so I came back here to kind of help liquidate his enormous amount of things. And he left me a lot of things. And he left me a lot of guitars. And so I really wanted to do something different. And I was in New York for 9 months going through all of his stuff. I'm from New York City, but like I said, I've lived everywhere. But 2 of the guitars that he was very famous for using, another very well-known musician, who I probably shouldn't name, but I won't, but a really well-known guy, he bought them from me for almost to the dollar the amount that the Cirrus 820 and my Dodge Ram cost.
Wow.
So it was like trading 2 guitars for that rig.
Wow.
And, Tom Verlaine was not a man who liked to spend money. And so, and I would always bug him. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, now is now. Let's enjoy the moment, and let's do what we can to have a better time every moment that we're alive. Mm-hmm. And he was the opposite. What was that story about the Jiminy Cricket? The one saved the money.
One saved.
Yeah. I was the one who just threw it up in the air.
Something.
I can't remember the name of that story.
I don't know.
Anyway.
It sure describes a lot of people. I can tell you.
Well, there's a reason why that story is that story.
That's right.
But so whenever I would bug him about spending the money that he had, or a little bit of it anyway, and enjoying his life, he would always say, "Oh, but what if I need it later?" Well, he died at 72, and there was no later, and it was.
And he had plenty of money.
Oh God, yeah.
He had plenty of money.
He had a lot. And
he was saving it.
That we didn't even know about, But anyway, so for me to turn those 2 guitars into this
more living,
amazing new life that I'm about to start when I pull out of here in a few hours.
Yeah.
It's poetic justice, and also I have a little bit of his ashes that will live in the camper with me. Right. And so, you asked why a truck camper, and you got a 15-minute story.
I like it.
It's all right.
But I was originally looking at vans, which I started last summer looking at vans, and then I think, like a lot of people, realized that, if you fell out of love with the van life, you were still stuck with that van with a bathroom and a kid, like you're not going to daily drive that, So, not that I would ever get tired of camping.
Totally understand.
Camping podcast.
I get tired of camping. It's fine.
We take breaks.
But you can take the truck camper off the truck and put it in storage, and then you've got a great truck.
You
to
still
drive
have
around,
a truck.
and that, to me, that made and there's more room in that 820 than there is in a Sprinter.
Isn't that crazy?
Just fantastic. So as soon as I realized, as soon as I really started going on all the forums and reading everybody's experience with it, I realized, it's so silly to do the van thing, like these campers and I love pickup trucks. So,
then that all fits together.
It all worked. It all worked. Okay, that was one question, and I think we're not out of time.
We're never out of time. People can turn it off. You guys know where the off button is, right?
Yeah, they know.
So anytime you're ready, because we got a lot to talk about here.
All right.
So you had a truck camper. You put it on the truck. One question that comes to mind right off the bat, for obvious reasons, is you told me you were in Oregon.
Yeah.
So why did you drive 2,500 miles to Texas?
Actually, I kind of live in Alabama.
Oh, so we're on the way.
Yeah.
We're a drive-by.
Well, what happened was...
I was hoping for something better. I can try.
No. What happened was... after research, I'm a fanatic for doing your homework. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in school, but I am in life.
Yeah, most truck camper people are research people.
Yeah.
It just goes hand in hand.
Well, I don't think you can, I can't imagine that you could have a very good time if you don't like to look things up and find out where to go and what could be fun for you.
Yeah.
Right.
But after deciding that the 820, the Cirrus 820 by nuCamp, was
perfect.
Was the right size and had all the stuff that I was looking for, and I thought it looked really cool. And then I started going on the RV Trader and all that stuff, and that's when I discovered y'all. And then I saw that, it was 2025 and you had a 2024 and I got you all gave me a very, very nice discount. And so I actually started doing this deal long before I had a truck. Long before. We started doing this deal, I think, in November, maybe.
Goodness.
That's when I first contacted Lucas.
Okay.
And so we've been working on this for a while, and I have been looking for a truck for that long because I had a really unbreakable set of boxes that needed to be checked for the truck. I really did know exactly what I wanted. I said, well, for better or for worse, it was a very rare, hard to find set of boxes.
So what was on your boxes?
Had to be a manual.
A manual truck.
Yeah.
Well, that puts you in the 0.0001%
Yes.
right there.
Yep. Had to be a manual.
So it had to be older. Do they even still make manual trucks?
2007 was the last. Oh, I'm an
good.
expert. I'm an expert
I love
on it
that.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick question. Why don't? I mean, like, I understand they're not as popular and people don't know how to drive them, but they still make like manual cars. So like
The percentage is so small at this point.
but like a manual truck versus a manual like your car. Mm-hmm. So like you have like a Miata that's manual.
Oh.
So why don't they make manual trucks if they still make manual cars? It's just not as practical?
Yeah, I mean,
Or like people who drive trucks?
people just don't want them.
Really?
A Miata you can understand because that's just a fun car and you want to be able to toss that thing around. And
Yeah.
it has that reputation of just like, if you want to have fun, that's the car to have. And you don't want to,
Thank
spend
you.
$100,000 for a Corvette or something. You can't even buy a manual Corvette.
It was really hard
What?
to buy a manual Miata.
You haven't been able to get a manual Corvette for a long time.
Yeah, but
They're all paddle shift.
well, and paddle shift is kind of a newer thing.
Yeah,
Is it like cheating?
on standard
It's like
cars.
manual
Ferrari-
cheating.
on regular
Ferrari
cars.
was the first one in the mid '90s with the you could just walk in and
dang.
buy a paddle shift, but no.
Paddle
know
shift
things.
is kind of the cool thing now, and for
to me.
for anything other than a little sports car or I guess only a little sports car, then the
Yeah.
paddle shift is what's on everything else.
That's really only in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I would have no idea about that.
I was, like I just said, I was 16 years in Argentina, and I had a Renault. Kind of looked like a Ford Transit. Like a small little panel truck, because I had my band and I put gear in the back and put the band in the back and go to shows. And but that was a 5-speed, and I've had, Corvettes and Camaros and I would say 90% of the cars I've had in my 53 years of driving have been stick shift. I just like feeling a part of it, and I'm also a motorcycle rider my whole life. So I like being involved with how the thing works.
Clint, I really I feel like we messed this up.
Yeah, Clint should be on this podcast because he is all
He's
into
over there
all
just
of
like
this.
nodding to everything you
And
say.
he's like giving us hand signals. It's like
Jump in, man. Come on.
he also loves driving my Miata when he can squeeze into it because
Well,
it is
he's taller than me even.
it is not made for
No,
people who are
I've
6'5".
driven a couple. They're in,
But I also want to state it is not made for people 5 foot like me either. So I have sat on a pillow in my car
oh wow.
for years.
Hey, listen. One of
and
my
only
first,
because
one of my
I
first
got to reach
cars
the
was
pedals.
an Austin Healey Sprite.
Oh man,
And
mine was a TR6.
That's a big car compared to the Sprite.
yes.
I used to. I'm
A little bug eye.
I'm 6'3". I used to have to look over the windshield. I have pictures of me at 18 years old, but the windshield's there.
Yeah, that's like Goofy used to drive that little tiny
Yes.
car, and he would stick up so
I was
tall.
pretty goofy back then.
We all were. We all were at that age. I mean, don't kid yourself. So, all right. So
it had to be a stick shift. Had to be a stick shift.
Where were we?
Had to be a 5.9 Cummins diesel.
Okay. I get that
and
one.
In 2006 is when they started adding all the emissions on. I wanted one with no emissions. By 2008, you had to start putting all that DEF fluid in, and they started glopping on the emissions, and they killed that motor. And that's when all the problems started. The EPA just, it's still a great motor, but they have problems now, and it's always fueling and emissions related. So, and 2005 was the year. It was like they'd cured all the earlier problems, and they hadn't started making the new problems. And so that truck's a 2005. And
so you needed a 2005
stick shift, short bed, because the Cirrus 820 is built for short beds. Now I'm losing. I had my list so memorized, but many things have happened since I had that list. I wanted it to not be lifted because a truck camper on a lifted truck is not a good thing in the wind or the around turns.
It's not helpful.
And there was one other big thing. Well, the nice thing was y'all were going to put the airbags in for me, but that truck already had them in there. Well, that was the thing. Like I said, the guy that wound up having it for a year, I had made a list of, if I found this truck, I had made a list of all the aftermarket stuff that I would want to do to it. Mm-hmm. And I even had the companies, and, you need Apex suspension parts and I had everything. When they sent me a list of what was on this truck, it was like they'd looked at my list and done it. It was literally like it was made for me.
So does your truck have a name?
Yes.
Of course.
And I never name things.
I somehow knew that.
I hate the people who name their guitars and people who to me it's so corny.
And then you go and do it.
And then I went and did it because I figured we'd be together on some.
It's okay to be corny.
Places. Yeah, it's okay. I've never been accused of not being corny, but I usually try to minimize the corn. I try to minimize it.
You try to hide it. Yeah. Okay, so we're waiting.
Oh, it's the easy one. It's not like Bob or something,
Oh, why not?
It's a 5.9 Cummins, so I call it Old 5.9.
I like it.
Old 5.9.
I like it.
And I think I got to name the camper Tom.
Tom?
My friend Tom Verlaine, who died and left me his things and allowed me to...
Oh, 5.9 and Tom.
Yeah, which allowed me to do what I'm doing.
So you talked about the boxes for your truck. Even though you weren't as familiar with truck campers, did you have boxes for the truck camper that you needed
I didn't
to check?
Because it was such a new world. I mean...
You just picked the one you like?
Yeah. Well, I thought the interior was great on that one. It was laid out. It made sense. I mean, not like some of the other brands that we won't talk about.
That are not nuCamp Cirrus 820s.
Yeah, no, it just didn't seem to, this one, I liked that little kind of two benches, and I could see myself with my computer and writing music sitting there and say, that's the other thing. So I've been a professional musician for 57 years. I started to get paid. I just turned 69. And I started to get paid when I was 12. It's the only job I've ever had in my life, which is incredibly lucky and fortunate and sometimes desperate and really impossible, but I'm just that stubborn. But I really did want to do something different. And during the pandemic, I started watching so much YouTube and like everybody else, and so many people doing, just showing parts of their lives that, when you're in the middle of it yourself, you think, oh, nobody wants to hear about this stuff. But when someone's watching something, a life that they don't know, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I watched so many guys pulling apart cars and, flying airplanes, and it didn't matter. It was just like,
It was something you didn't know.
Exactly.
Something you were totally unfamiliar
jumping into
with.
another life. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just get to kind of see what they're doing.
And because I'm a blabbermouth, and because I have lived this, life that I think, for better or worse, a lot of people fantasize about having the life that I've actually had, because they don't really know the reality of it. But, at least the glitzy parts, they think about stuff like that. Everybody's always saying, oh, you got to write a book. You have all these stories, you worked with all of these ridiculous people, 200 household names I've been on records with or toured with. Or they're like, oh, you have to write a book. And I'm like, you know what? To me, I have a lot of friends who wrote books, and they spent a year and a half, sitting, typing, or having, telling their stories to someone else, and then editing and changing it. And it's kind of, to me, it's the equivalent of when you're making a record. You spend like, a year writing songs and gathering your experiences and expressing them in some creative way that maybe can affect people one way or another. Then you go in the studio, or you have a studio in your house, and you take another 6 months getting it to sound and be the way you want it to be. And then comes the day it's out, and everyone goes, hey, you got a new record. So anyway, we were saying that.
And it just moves right on.
And it's gone. And it's gone. And meanwhile, you spent like 2 years getting that together.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's soul crushing. And I mean, okay, if you get a hit, great. But then you spend the next 3 years playing that same damn song over and over and over and over.
That's right.
So here's my idea, and it's not at all an original idea. I fully realize that. But I am going to get in that camper.
The Cirrus 820 by nuCamp.
And I am going to put some cameras in the cab of the truck, and they can move to the back of the camper or outside or wherever. And I'm going to tell all my insane rock and roll stories. I enjoy editing video. I'm fairly good at it. I've edited some music videos from myself and other people, and I'll try to get one on YouTube every week, just telling, I'm driving through Austin. I worked with Willie Nelson in some very crazy and strange events and things, and here I am in Austin. Reminds me of when I played the Democratic National Convention with Willie in Boston in 2004, which I did, and that story is really crazy. Tell the story into the camera, go back and edit it. I can put my own music to the videos, and hopefully eventually it'll pay enough to pay for the damn diesel for the truck. If it just pays for my diesel, I consider it a wild success. Because diesel's expensive.
Yes. And it depends on how much you want to drive. And with a truck camper, it's just hard to sit still. I can't imagine it would be. I
want to drive every day.
What you want to do. You want to go somewhere.
Well, I do want to be like in the deep woods in Montana hanging out with Bigfoot. That's my absolute dream.
If you meet him, will you tell him I say hi?
Absolutely.
And I love him.
Should I give him your number?
Yes.
All right.
Didn't we do an entire podcast on Bigfoot?
Yes,
really?
We did. I'm obsessed.
We've also had podcasts on how to make coffee. So don't be too impressed here, Jimmy.
Making coffee is easy. You just take that little plastic thing and stick it in the machine. And
oh, no, this was
campground coffee with an old sock.
Well,
desperate
or a new sock. I guess it doesn't have to be an old sock.
We had a long discussion of whether it needed to be clean or dirty.
Yes.
I don't know. Over the years, like I said, this is really a place for us to have fun. We meet so many interesting people in our daily life. We just love sharing it all. And some of it has to do with campers, and some of it really maybe only we have to reach a bit to connect.
I was so surprised when I got here yesterday and saw you had a whole studio in here. I was like, what the heck's going on here?
We do a little of everything.
We get bored, just like you. Sound like you do too. We get bored and we just decide to do new things.
I think you need to have some live shows here.
Oh, we did that too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, they were exhausting.
Wow.
Yeah. We did for a while.
You had bands?
Oh, no.
We're ready for those live shows.
I should see that.
Oh, live music?
When we first
when you
started.
back.
Well, he's here now.
Let's put you on the
Grab
calendar.
that guitar out of your back seat.
It's in the hotel across the highway.
Oh, geez. Should have brought it.
It'll be in the back seat later today.
But your guitar doesn't have a name.
No. I've never named a guitar.
All right, just making sure.
I always love to ask this of musicians. How many guitars do you have?
Actually, that was a lie. I have named a guitar.
Okay. All right. First lie.
Was it a girl's name?
Recognized.
No.
No. Oh, I love it.
There's a model of Gibson guitars that's called the SG. Very famous. It's actually the guitar that Gibson has sold the most of in its 120-year.
Okay, Clint knows all of this. Clint.
And
he's really the gearhead when it comes to music. So.
well, SG really dumbly means solid guitar. It's a solid body.
That is
guitar,
dumbly.
right?
That's
It really
dumb.
is dumb. But they were when Les Paul decided to take his name away from the Gibson Les Paul because they changed the body shape to this much more, trying to compete with Fender, this much more modern, crazy, supposedly appealing to the youth body shape. Les Paul didn't like it. And also Les Paul was going through a divorce, so he wanted to cut his deal with Gibson so that Mary Ford couldn't take all the money from Gibson. Anyway,
there you go.
Yeah, because 6 years later, after the divorce, they started making the old style Les Paul again, and put his name back on it. But anyway, I've owned 20 SGs in my life, but I found this one about 10 years ago that was so good. It was like, okay, I've in my life I've had more than 300 guitars. Right now I have about 20. The most I ever had at one time was 85. But this SG is such a tremendous guitar that I named it S Jesus, because it was like the King of Kings,
Wow.
S Jesus. And I have guitar techs who, sorry if that's blasphemous to some people, but it means a lot to me. But I have guitar techs that'll say, well, what guitar do you want? Do you want S Jesus? I'm like, yeah, it's just become known as that. It's kind of funny, but I think that might be the only guitar I've ever named.
Well, that kind of just brought on its own name. I mean, it isn't like you just pulled it out and gave it a name.
It was like
one guitar
came down from heaven. That guitar.
One guitar for the rest of your life. What would it be?
The Telecaster.
Okay.
Look at Clint. Oh my gosh. Y'all should see Clint in the background. He's the music nerd. He plays guitar. He knows all about trucks.
And yet you got him sitting in the corner with headphones on.
I told him to go in the corner, and I told him to put his headphones on.
I even tried to get him to come over. I said, Clint, are you sure you don't want to join us?
He knew that he would nerd out, and
he stays up late at night just learning everything there is to know about every pedal that's ever been made.
Oh Lord! Well, it's better that he's not on this, because it would go off into a whole.
He hasn't gone into the stage where he has to own everything.
Oh.
But he has to know everything.
Yeah.
Like everything. His wife has kept him sane, so he doesn't own everything.
Well, once you start to know, then you start to want.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, huh? Okay, we've talked a lot about truck campers. Very cool. When I heard that you wanted to do a weekly YouTube with this truck camper, and that was kind of your dream life, to share your stories and put them out there, just to pay for your gas so you can travel. I mean, some of us, so many people work remotely, they're on the road, they try to figure out how to pay for it. You have lived this incredible life, the good and the bad of it, because I very rarely am starstruck. I think my English was bad, but I am always interested in people's lives. And I don't care if you are the best flint napper in the world or if you're Mick Jagger. I want to know what your
You got to explain that
life
one
is. Boy, you're you're in Texas
now.
now.
Look, I would not that I wouldn't mind YouTube paying me more than my diesel costs.
Yeah,
please, please
it's
like,
okay.
share, and subscribe. But,
We will share all this info, guys.
yeah.
And I promise you, sometime before you leave with that truck camper, we're going to get some music out of you, because I bet I could talk you into just giving us a little live jingle when you make it back around the loop.
oh yeah, for sure.
A live jingle when you make it back around the loop.
He has to go over to the hotel, get his
that
guitar,
makes so much sense to me, but that's going to be
and come back around.
Well, it might be a
Come
bigger
on.
loop than that. Maybe when I'm coming back this way from Alabama.
No, I mean just a taste, so that we can include it with the podcast.
Recorded in the back of the camper.
You know what?
You can use.
We
this
just made a great friend
as your
here.
podcast.
our
theme
podcast
song.
music.
I'm ready.
All right,
I'm ready,
Work
Work
guys.
on it.
I'm ready.
What rhymes with princess?
Oh, I know. And our name is like, oh. I should never say that, right? I should quit saying that.
Yeah, you
More
should
rhymes with craft.
Yeah.
Princess
Craft
Craft.
is
Do you
easier,
know?
yeah.
Do
Just
you
rhyme
know?
with PJ.
Nothing rhymes with that. Do you know what an uphill battle it has been to build a reputable dealership called Princess Craft?
That's your fault.
Who?
I did not
stop
Who named it?
Not her.
It was not me. I inherited it, and I tried to change it. I was talked out of it, and then it was too late, because we did really well. We jumped out there.
Can't change it now.
So it's notable, and it just happens to have an awful lot of women in
And you ever
charge.
thought of going to like PCRV? Although
Yep.
But
See what happened there?
politically correct.
then we get in all kinds of trouble.
No, but
Yeah,
one time
yeah.
we did start a little side business of ceramic painting, and we called it Princess Crap.
Yeah. It's true.
Probably appealing to a certain set.
It
Like
lasted
he said,
like 4 months.
You know, sorry if we offend people, but not really. So, okay.
Yeah, princess is tough when you're talking about like the
Camping and
yeah,
trucks.
outdoor life. And
You know, we have people who I am well aware, they take their camper and then they peel our name off once they leave.
no,
Absolutely. You think these
How
Texas Bubbas
dare
want
they.
princess anywhere on their
you know.
camper. So it's all right. We're
Stop
good.
calling our customers Texas Bubbas.
I think
No, not all of them, but there are some.
I always say it takes a real man to wear pink. You know, so I don't know.
That's right. The world is changing, and we're changing it one.
we go.
One
Princess
Texas
at a
Bubba
time.
at a
One
time.
camper at a time.
Okay.
Where are
so
we going?
circle back around.
Okay.
I appreciate everything that you've done. I think it's
thanks.
incredible. And I am always honored to meet people who are talented. And clearly you're talented.
Oh,
But the beauty is
fun to
really.
have breakfast with.
Yeah, well, so am I. So, and I'm not that talented.
I always, people
You know?
always say, "Well, how'd you get all these jobs?" I said, "Well, I'm fun to have breakfast with." You know, I don't
Yeah.
play that good. You know, I can name 30 guys who play circles around me, but I'm a good person to sit next to on a long plane flight, and
Yeah.
you know, that counts for a lot.
It does.
in rock and roll world. You know,
Totally. And you know what? I also think, you probably could name 100 people right off the top of your head who don't play as well as you, who are very famous.
oh well, yeah.
So, it's
Don't.
all.
But
But don't.
Let me start with the A's.
Love it.
Like any of those people are listening to this podcast.
But there's really something to be said for instance, especially if you're talking about rock and roll or country music, any kind of I don't want to call it simple music, but if you're comparing it to Miles Davis or something like, or Beethoven, it is simple music, But to play that kind of simple music and make people feel something takes a very special person.
You're right.
You know, someone who's I forget and almost like an empath. You know, someone who can make you feel the emotions that they're feeling. That's why, you know, you people like Willie or Neil Young, or people that don't have even Mick Jagger, they don't have amazing voices. They're not Pavarotti. They're not, you know, Freddie Mercury even. But what they do is every note that they sing or play, equivalent to some players, is just so filled with emotion and can bring you into the story that they're telling, either on the instrument or with their voice.
So what's the most emotional person you've ever played with or worked with? I know you've done a lot of producing.
I produced and played with Jerry Lee Lewis. And I don't think
one of my very young heroes.
I don't think a lot of people. I don't think a lot of very famous people began by being his huge fan. Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin was the president of the Jerry Lee fan club in London when he was 14 years old.
Wow.
Tom Jones was the most fanatical Jerry Lee fan, and they wound up being very, very close friends. So Jerry was a huge inspiration to a lot of people. Keith Richards. I've never experienced anybody who could do what he could do on stage. Playing on stage with him, there were times, honest to God, it sounds like just a cliche kind of things to say, but it really felt like levitating. It didn't feel like my feet were connected to the stage anymore. Literally, the energy was so intense that it felt like all of us had lifted 3-4 inches off the ground. And it's a crazy thing to say, but it really is the truth. And he's just an amazing guy and very interesting human being, both for the better and for worse.
Right.
You know, certainly had his faults and problems, but what a conduit of energy, you know, a lightning rod, really.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody. Well, Jagger was like that. You know, I wrote a lot of songs with Mick, and he was certainly like that, especially in the songwriting. Jerry didn't write songs, but every song of other people's, like Frank Sinatra or Elvis, every song that he took of other people's became his, and he wound up doing it better than anybody, you know.
Do you think that is something that people are just born with?
Yes.
Like that?
No, there's nothing that you can learn, and there's no way to explain it.
You can learn to play the guitar, but you can't learn to
do that
energy shift with audiences that makes them fall in love with you.
You cannot. I used to think that you could encourage it by kind of opening up the top of your head and letting those things fall in there. And I actually used to envision that at certain times. And I think that it does become kind of a transcendental meditative state. Now, let the Texas puppets look that way.
No, it's all right.
But if you're
with you,
if you're talking about transferring energy,
you're talking about Texas puppets. My whole family is from Texas.
Well, we love them. I just hope I'm not misunderstood.
This hat is natural.
We're from Texas too.
Yeah,
we love everyone here.
I just drove from visiting with my 95-year-old uncle in Midland.
Aww.
And I still have a bunch of family up in Midland, and but my mom and dad are buried in Comanche.
Wow.
And so real Texas. I mean, and going back, 9 generations, you know. So even though I was born in New York and I took a lot of shit over that.
It's all right.
But, you know.
Then your parents came back here.
My dad did, yeah.
Okay.
My dad did.
Good. You know, we talk about these people that have this innate talent. I think what I have noticed on the people that are like it is a natural talent, and they somehow they're learning now that the autistic kids that get these wild talents, that they get them mostly because they are so hyper focused.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens a lot of times with musicians. They become hyper focused on their craft, learning different genres, maybe just whatever it is. But those that become really amazing performers have, along with that, some natural charisma. This natural charisma that they are electric just in a conversation. And probably very great to have dinner with because they're not awake at breakfast.
Well, breakfast is a state of mind.
Okay, as long as we're talking that way.
Yeah.
Breakfast maybe at 2 a.m.
Well,
do you see that when you talk about the famous
some
people
are
you know?
and some aren't. You know, I've certainly been with, you know, very well-known people, really respected people who were literally barely conversational.
Really?
Yeah.
Like who?
Robert De Niro.
Ugh. I can certainly see that.
Good
You ever
guy.
seen him interviewed on the late night shows?
No, well, we don't.
It is terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
torturous. It's torturous.
Terrible. It's so hard.
I had dinner, a very quiet dinner at a table for four in a quiet restaurant with him and Mick and Francis Coppola. And just the four of us. And I didn't want to speak because obviously those three people were people that you just wanted to hear every word and every story and encourage them. But De Niro never spoke. And given the way he's become lately, I'm kind of glad that he didn't, you know, because it gave me a few more years to kind of love his art before he's been opening his mouth up so much lately. And I don't know why entertainers and people do that, you know, start talking about politics. Of course, everybody has a right to their opinion, but why, if your business is selling you, would you want to offend more than half this year, more than half the country?
Well,
it just seems really dumb to me. But
somehow people who become a celebrity feel that they have influence. And it makes them I don't know. I would
humility should be at the top of the list for everybody, and to realize
what a great thing to say.
You're just another jerk walking around. You know, it's not. You know, there's nothing special about anybody. We're all in this together, and you know, it's okay to state your opinion, but to be so vehement and to attack, you know, millions of people and what they believe in is just insane on both sides. I'm not just, you know, taking one side. You know.
So I have to ask, how do you, it seems like a very odd mix. So how do you end up at a dinner with Mick Jagger, Francis Ford Coppola, and Robert De Niro?
Well, because Mick is a huge, you know, he has a film company. He produces, he's produced a bunch of movies at this point. So he's acted in a whole bunch of movies. So he has very, very strong Hollywood connections. And I, honest to God, can't remember how that dinner happened, but you know, it was in New York about 20 years ago or something, but
and off you went.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I mean, it was at a time when he and I were together every day. And I lived in all of his houses, and we were touring and writing songs, and we were playing all the time. And so it was just like, you know, we're having dinner at this restaurant at 8:00, come, and then you get there, and
they're there.
It's a table for four, and you know, and it's like that, you know.
So, what an interesting time that must have been.
You have to take a couple of deep breaths, and then it's like people, you know, people look at the list of artists that I've worked with, and they're like, oh my God, you know, how did you sit in the room and, especially if I'm producing them, how do you tell someone what to do at that level, this legend level? And the way I got to that place was just to remember that every single one of us was a nerd sitting in their bedroom at 8 years old, practicing whatever it is that we wound up doing, with not a lot of friends, and not because we were in a house for 7 hours a day, playing and learning and listening to records and playing along with them. So every single one of us began with some version of that. And so once you remember that,
right.
Yeah.
Once you remember that, then it's easy. Then it's so easy to relate. You've got that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have a Gulfstream, and I don't have I don't own my own town.
Right.
I don't. But we all started at this point, and once I came to that in my head, it was never ever difficult again.
So. Okay, so I know you've done a lot of producing.
Yeah.
Who are some of the hardest people that you produced records?
I've never had trouble with anybody.
You never had any trouble producing records.
No.
So what are the top people?
I mean, Jerry was a bit of a tap dance because his personality is so mercurial.
Yeah.
If I'm pronouncing that right. That you had, and he was so quick-witted and he's a human lie detector. So you can't bullshit him.
Okay.
If I can say that on Princess Craft Podcast by nuCamp.
By nuCamp.
If I learned like the first day that if you tried to BS him at all, he would just look up at you and go, "Killer, that's a lie." And then, he wouldn't even go, "No, really?" He wouldn't say, no, there was no, "Killer, that's a lie." And you'd go, "Yeah, Jerry, that's a lie. Sorry, man." It was because he just had that stare, and he would look at you like, he could kill you. He was the killer, And so I learned really early on just to absolutely tell him the truth. And once I figured that out, which was right away, we never had any trouble.
How old were you when you produced his stuff?
That was that record, which was called Last Man Standing, and had 22 guests on 21 tracks, and criminally is not available on streaming services. I don't know what the hell's going on with that.
Clint's on it.
I have talked to Jerry's widow and the estate, and I'm like, why? First of all, it was the biggest selling record of Jerry's entire career, which is a very long career. Sold more records than any other thing he ever did. And to have it not available on Spotify is, I am not a fan of Spotify, but it's what's going.
Yeah.
It's the thing that's
it gets it heard.
Yeah, but sadly, every artist is just being shafted mercilessly.
So who all joined him on that?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, really?
Am I making you think too hard here, Jimmy?
No. The coffee is almost kicking in. It's 21 people. Okay. Let's see if I can get them all.
You don't have to get them all. Just
I want to get them all because it's been a while. It's been a while. Okay. Jimmy Page, Mick, Ronnie Wood, Keith Richards, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Willie, Merle Haggard, Toby Keith, George Jones, Little Richard, Don Henley, B.B. King, Buddy Guy.
You said them.
Did I?
You said B.B. King, not Buddy Guy.
I didn't say
No.
Buddy Guy. I didn't say Buddy Guy.
Well, we got it recorded as long as it's in there now.
Yeah, you can check me later. Delaney Bramlett, Ringo. Did I say Little Richard? I think I did.
Yes.
Yeah. Don Henley.
You said that.
I did. Damn.
That's all right. We got a whole bunch of them.
Did I mention that I turned 69 last month?
Hey, I'm right behind you.
That sounded like
right
21 to me.
Let's just say 21.
Eric Clapton, Bruce Springsteen. Hell. Well.
All right. Of all those people.
Let's say that's 21.
Yeah, let's just say, ding, 21.
I say Rod Stewart?
No.
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart.
Okay.
I heard he's hard to work with.
No, Rod's a sweetheart. I love
Really?
Rod. Yeah. He came and sang in my kitchen. John Fogerty.
Love that.
I recorded, that record took 4 years to make.
Wow.
We had the basic tracks recorded within a year. Kid Rock.
We got to be getting
Kid Rock
close
is
to
very
21.
close to Princess Craft.
But I've spent about 2.5 years.
What he is?
Why is that?
Because our old finance
It just
manager
went what?
used to be on his used to tour with him.
Oh, really?
So we would always talk about Kid Rock. I wasn't making
That's
a
right.
joke. I was being
It just
serious.
occurred to me. Yeah.
And can I just say, I just, it's kind of like, it's like the De Niro thing where, if people talk about their personal feelings in politics, they get slammed by everybody who was on the other side. But Bobby, Kid Rock, is just one of the nicest people I've ever met.
That's what Charles
I really
said
love
too.
the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
He's super talented. I just don't understand. I read these comments about, this guy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, did I say Toby Keith?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just popping up into your head.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm just trying to get them all.
Squirrel.
Yeah, he was just fantastic, and he, of all those people, only a few actually came to Memphis and recorded with Jerry. George Jones came down, which was just a wonderful day, and Bobby came down to Memphis, and we did a great version of Honky Tonk Woman with Jerry. You got to hear this record.
I'm going to have to search for this now.
We recorded the Led Zeppelin song Rock and Roll with Jimmy Page, and Jerry Lee. I mean, it's a great version. Anyway, I forget the question you asked me.
All the people.
Me too.
Oh, yeah, of people being difficult or...
Yeah. Who was super nice?
Well,
who was difficult? I mean, Don Henley's supposed to be, a little bit challenging sometimes.
Never with me, and I've known him. I went to his wedding. I've known him forever.
Which one?
He's only married once. He's had a lot of great girlfriends, but he only married...
Act like
only married Sharon.
Okay. I missed that. I thought the girl in Dallas was second or third.
No, I don't think so.
Huh. Anyway.
If only there was a way to find out.
I know. If only there was.
If only we had a Google.
I can't believe nobody's broken their phone out already.
Yeah, not me. But
I don't actually care how
I'm
many
not
times
that
Don Henley's been
concerned about
married.
Don Henley.
Well,
but I'm glad to know
has
that.
been an absolute sweetheart.
Good.
To me, always.
Good.
Always. And I
Good to
always
know.
appreciate that, with him, because...
I have huge respect for his talent.
Me too. We tried writing some songs together, but nothing great ever came of that. But I wish it had, because he makes money.
And he's got a rhythm. He's got there's something about what he writes that has just got
It's Texas
piece to it. I don't know. Maybe.
No,
it's got a piece to it.
Texas.
He is
Texas
one
comes,
of. He is one of. His songwriting is really one of the tops.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
No,
I mean,
Paul
of course, all those people that you talk. Yeah, Paul Simon's right up there. So, do you know Paul Simon?
I shook his hand once. I don't know him.
Okay, dang.
There's not a whole lot.
That is the one person you've said so far that I might faint.
There's a few I wish I'd known or gotten to work with, but there's not too many.
I think maybe, everybody has these, or people have these reputations, like you keep saying, like Don Henley, he's known
that's
as
why I
being
asked.
bad to work with. And you said that about a couple of people, and you're like, no, they're all really nice. I think it's you. I think you,
in my experience, it's
make everyone
it's rumor mill stuff. by
Yeah.
someone who walked up to somebody while they were eating,
Right.
and said, "Hey, can I take a photo?"
Right.
And it's like, and they say, "No, fuck off," and then
that
all of a
guy's an
sudden,
asshole.
and then all of a sudden they tell their uncle, and their uncle tells them, and all of a sudden you're a jerk, But
But you don't feel like you are a specific type of personality that's able to get along with all of these obviously huge personalities and
I
get along
am
with
deeply
it?
Pisces. So
We cracked it, everybody.
11 of 12 houses in Pisces. My chart is so freaky.
That is really freaky.
It's bizarre. I've had some
talk
hippie
about
girlfriends.
energy.
I've had some hippie girlfriends just go mad when they go, "Do you realize your child?" I'm like, whatever that means,
Yeah.
It means
whatever.
you're you.
I guess so.
Well, and also, I think you will have a lot of success in producing these people, in playing with them, in collaborating with them, because you have a bit of notoriety yourself. And
Yeah.
and so that puts you on a more even playing field, and you're an honest, straightforward person, probably very direct
That helps.
on
I
occasion.
think more than anything. I was recording with Mick one day, and we had Steve Winward come in to play some keyboards on a song that we were recording, and who, God, talk about legend, he's absolutely one of my idols. And it was just him. We were overdubbing him. It was just him sitting out in the studio, and it was a song that we'd recorded once already, and we kind of knew what we wanted, and Mick and I were sitting in the control room, and we just, Steve Winward, we're not going to tell him what to play, so we said, yeah, just listen to it and play whatever you want to play. And he went out and he played some really nice things, but we had this idea stuck in our head for 2 years, because we'd recorded it once already, and Mick had played keyboard, and so about halfway through him doing it, I nudged Mick and said, "It's not right, is it?" And he went, "No, it's not right." And I said, "Well, go tell him." And Mick said, "Oh, I can't." And I said, "What do you mean you can't?" He said, "No, it's Steve Winwood." And they'd known each other since they were like teenagers, And I'm like, "Yeah, let's just tell him the part we want him to play." And he said, "Oh, no, I can't. You do it. And I'm like, I have to go. Okay. So, and I know this. I met the guy the first time that minute, So I had to go out in the room. But it just goes to show you, you're Mick Jagger, and, you're still like, "No, I can't tell Steve Winwood what to play." I'm like, it's always me. I've gotten, I always say if I was less honest, I'd have a bigger house. Maybe I'd have a Cirrus 920 instead of an 820.
Cirrus by nuCamp.
Can we please make that a soundbite?
Okay, regrets. What an amazing life. All of these artists you have played, you produced, you have hung out, you have traveled, you have done so many
Nothing compared to the
amazing
traveling I'm
things.
about to do, though.
Yeah, well,
My Cirrus 820 by nuCamp.
you do not have to blow it up for our benefit. But I mean, it's a different experience. I'm really impressed that you want something different.
Yeah.
But regrets. What would you do differently
Oh gosh,
if you were 30 years old?
we need some bourbon for that, baby.
Yeah, well, we could keep going with some bourbon.
We need some
But
bourbon
yeah.
for that, for the regret part, because there's a bunch. There's 3 ex-wives out there that I might.
Do you regret?
A couple
They
of them.
might
I ain't gonna
regret.
say which two, but
They'll never know.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will.
Only if they listen to the
RV
Small Talk podcast.
By nuCamp.
Well, I have one more question,
Okay.
and it is truck camper related.
All right, good.
You want to get away from the other
Yeah,
stuff,
He's
right?
done. I
don't
could
know.
see that on
Enough
his
about
face
me.
10
Let's talk
minutes ago.
about me.
I'm just ready to get the bourbon and crank up the music. That's what I'm ready for.
I want to know, after this whole incredible life of having to just, like the story you just told about telling Steve Winwood it's not exactly what you were looking for.
Which, by the way, I told him what to play, and he played it perfectly, and it's on the record.
because
So-
all he needed was
Which
somebody to
record is it?
tell him.
Everybody wants a little guidance. Everybody
So,
likes that. You
after
know?
all these, like, what seems to me, probably not to you, but like really scary moments or, leap of faith moments, I guess. Like, are you scared about the Cirrus 820?
Yes.
Are you?
I am petrified.
What are you scared of?
Well, for one thing, it doesn't look like it's going to fit on the damn pickup truck.
We'll make it fit on.
I know
we
it's
can
gonna-
make
I know it's gonna
almost
fit,
anything happen.
But I'm scared of low bridges.
Just like all these adventures.
I'm scared of,
all these adventures you've had in your life.
Big
moving
curves
to other
on a windy
countries.
day. I'm scared of 4:00 in the morning hearing out by my side of my door. I want to know how to put some lights around the outside that I can turn on.
We can help you with
floodlights.
that.
I want to be able to lay in my bed and light up the whole area and say
So
hi
there
to
are
Bigfoot.
still things after your life of adventure
Oh,
that
hell
you
yeah.
are
absolutely
unsure of.
Absolutely. And they're all like
I don't know why I like hearing
they're
that, but
all
I do.
security. They're all security related and all.
Hey, those are
Because I really do. I don't want to be in RV camps. I want to be boondocking in the middle of nowhere. That is my, shake it up kind of dream.
and the scary part of that is exactly why it's fun to do.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, you
reason.
want a regret? I'll give you a regret. I wish I'd never seen the Blair Witch Project.
I haven't.
It's the stupidest movie. Don't let that scare you.
But you're alone in the woods. You start hearing that stuff.
No, that just makes me nauseous.
I have never watched it for that very reason.
No, it just makes me
don't-
car sick. It's
I
like,
don't wanna
ugh,
see
hold
it.
the camera still.
Nothing happens. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's never a monster. No one ever gets a key. You never see somebody that's not a slasher or something.
Yep, nothing.
But for some reason, that thing is disturbing. If you like being out in the woods, it ruined being in the woods for me. So
No, you just got to relearn it. You got to re-experience
I
it.
have a 9 out of shotgun. So
And check out
I'm okay.
you can check out our
And a
security
permit, and a permit,
department.
fully permitted. Fully
have-
permitted.
Lots of locks and security equipment over there in our parts store.
I'm gonna have to pick up some along with my toilet pellets.
That's right.
Some toilet paper and a shotgun.
I have to get me a toilet pellet gun.
There you go.
Well, is that kind of like a potato gun? That could be fun.
Can you imagine?
It could be fun.
Imagine.
All right.
Well, I could sit here forever.
We know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and not a piece of it I would regret. Just so you know,
No, you wouldn't.
not a single bit. But yeah, thanks for chatting with us. Thanks for sharing a very small piece.
Wow.
And
I can't wait to see this YouTube.
yeah, so we
I'm
are
going. You know what? I will let you all know when I've named it, because right about now I have 10 different names for it, and I'm trying to figure out which one I like.
Would you like to list them on that whiteboard and we can go ahead and tell you?
No.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, when we were starting RV Small Talk, it's like, okay, we're doing this on Friday. Y'all pick a name. So we came up with 100 names, right? And we circulated. We said, well, send it out. Have people pick their favorite. We got like 20 responses. Nobody picked the same name, and they picked all the raunchy ones.
All the ones we didn't like.
Because there was a lot of raunchy ones on there. I know it surprises you
For
coming
instance?
from me.
Okay, I couldn't remember
Do you
any.
remember?
I can't remember. I think I still have the
You were
list
also
somewhere.
dumb.
But
Anyway,
I said,
can't wait
okay,
for the YouTube channel.
pick the most benign one, and that's what we did, and here we are.
By the way, I got nothing against the name Princess.
Thank you.
Oh, that's a great way to end this podcast.
It reminds me. I played on a song. I don't know if you know who Jack Bruce was. He was the bass player in a band called Cream.
I do know Cream.
A small band called Cream.
And I made a one of his solo records with him. That was the record was called A Question of Time, and on one of the tracks, the name of the track was called Look Here, Princess. And I got to record that as a trio with Jack and Ginger Baker. So I got to be in Cream, for better or worse, for
the princess song.
and it was actually a Cream song that they tried to record, and it never wound up on a record. So it even had a stronger connection to that, and that was quite an afternoon because those two guys really didn't get along. And,
wow!
But if you've ever seen that movie, that documentary about Ginger Baker, he didn't really get along with anybody.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a very amazing and difficult day. But Look Here, Princess. Maybe you should use that as your theme song.
There you go. It didn't make an album, but
No, but it's on that record, and that is on Spotify.
Well, there you go.
Jack Bruce, Look Here, Princess. You could look it up.
All right, I will look it up.
There we go.
Clint's on it. Look at him.
All right, before we go, guys, where can people find out about you and track you until you start putting your YouTube out?
Oh, well, I guess Instagram is the easiest way. It's Jimmy
Rip.
JIMMYRIP, 1P. Leave off the last P for savings. No, RIP, yeah. Yeah, and yes, it is a part of my whole last name, which I got so tired of seeing misspelled 40 years ago I just dropped it off. And also, my dad, who was from De Leon, was always called Rip. Everybody just called him Rip.
That was his first name. That was his name.
He was Edwin, but you could understand
Rip is much better.
You can understand him wanting to be Rip. Yeah,
it's a very rock and roll.
Well, it was a very big character in Yellowstone, so
Yes, which I don't know how I feel about that, but I do like that show.
Yeah. So it took me a while to say his name is what?
Yeah.
So your dad was named Rip.
Yep.
Your last name is Ripito.
Ripito, exactly.
So
try and spell that.
I am pretty sure Jimmy Rip is a great pseudonym.
It's a lot easier. Yeah. It's a lot easier for people. But I have to say, the first time when I changed it, the first time I ever got reviewed under that name in a newspaper, they spelled it R-I-B. Jimmy Rib.
Jimmy Rib.
That's embarrassing.
Okay, that is not as cool.
That's a regret.
But I did always think it might be a good idea to open up a little barbecue place called Jimmy Ribs.
Jimmy Ribs. Well,
hey.
Well, my last name is Berger, so.
Wow, maybe we should start this place together.
Would you like to open a restaurant?
Wow, ribs and burgers.
There you go.
Let's go.
There we go. We're in.
Well, I'll tell you, this has been so much fun. And if I had to pick having dinner with Francis Ford Coppola or Robert De Niro or
Mick Jagger,
thank you. I was thinking, I got to get Jimmy Rip right. Or Jimmy Rip, I would pick you hands down every time.
Appreciate that.
Because real people having real conversations is the most fun I have in my whole life. It's what I look forward to.
You would like talking to Francis, though.
Okay. I probably would.
Because he is as real can be. And oh my God, he's got stories. Wow.
Yeah. And I probably would have enjoyed talking to Jerry Lee because I totally get that's a lie.
Oh,
I kind of live by that rule too.
That's
Jerry,
I would love that
was
as well.
tricky. That was a dance. It was always a dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just hide in his piano. I was a keyboard player in my young life.
Oh, wow.
And man, I tell you what, between that and Elvis Presley, I could have stopped right there and been happy.
A lot of people could.
Did you meet Elvis?
A lot of people have. No.
Oh, man. That would be a regret.
Yeah. Well, I would never, he died. I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was,
You weren't that much of a kid. You're the same age as me. I know how old I was.
Yeah. He died in 77, right?
Yeah. So
7?
yeah, we had driver's licenses.
21, yeah. But I
Had
wasn't.
driver's license.
Whoa, I had, yeah.
Barely.
No, 16, I got my license.
All right.
All right.
They're going to kill me if I don't wrap
Yeah.
this up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
All right, we'll cut this off. You guys check out Jimmy Rip, and we'll keep you updated when we know more about all these great
Yeah, I'm going to
stories
send you
that
a
are coming
message.
out.
I'm going to send you a message so you give me a little YouTube plug.
You might be
yes.
stuck with me forever,
That's
Jimmy.
all right. Here we go.
All right, here we go.
All
In
right.
his Cirrus 820 by nuCamp.
By nuCamp.
Next time, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.